we are often going. If you have a colleague who couldn't make it, we'll be able to send you the recording, and we'll probably post it on our website as well. Today's webinar is sponsored by TrenData, entitled The Wait is Over. AI-driven People Analytics 3.0 is here. My name is Tom McEwen. I'm the CEO of TrenData, and I would like to thank you for joining us here today. Let me go through just a quick agenda, what we're going to cover today. I'll give you a little background on TrenData. We had marketed this webinar both to our clients and prospects. So those of you who don't know who we are, I'll just give you a quick overview. We'll talk a little bit about the goals of this latest issue of technology issuance and what we put forth in the market here. It's largely driven by an enhanced artificial intelligence platform that we'll talk about in some depth, and then we'll kind of go beneath the platform and talk about, what are the new capabilities and how can it make it easier and better for you to run people analytics, and then kind of where we look to go from here as far as capabilities in the future. So a little bit background on TrenData. We're headquartered in Plano, Texas. That's I would say just a stone's throw north of Dallas. We're enjoying a fantastic fall day here. I hope you are wherever you are. And if you are, thank you for coming inside and watching the webinar. Our company launched about 2 years ago. We put our first product on the market October of last year. So we're about a year into our product offering. We sell largely to corporate clients, but we do basically sell to anybody who has a workforce and is looking to optimize and manage that workforce, their people, as best they can. The solution that we offer is AI-driven people analytics, and this is the next iteration of that technology. It's a cloud SaaS offering, so it doesn't require any on-premise implementation by a client standpoint. You just have a browser and you access it through the cloud. This is just a quick look at some of our clients out there. We go across many industries, finance, healthcare, construction, retail, you name it, we've got it. In a very short time, we've had a great adoption of our solution. 3 words I always like to ask everybody to keep in mind, and this we'll build on this a little bit when we introduce TrenData offerings, is we try to make, even though this is a very complex endeavor we're tackling, we try and make the solution as easy as possible. We don't want you to have consultants come in and implement and do the work for you. But to address that complex solution is a very robust technology that runs in the background. So what you see and are able to do is very easily done, but what it tackles in the background is, and you'll see when I talk a little bit about the platform. So easy, robust, and what we mean about today is you can get going with the solution on day one of the engagement with TrenData. We get you up on a basic version of the solution, and then we could build it out to whatever you are. But we always like to say that you start getting ROI from our product before we cash your check. So you go with TrenData, you're going to get to start using something pretty powerful right away. So the goals of what we were trying to tackle with this new release is very similar to the 3 things I talked about there. The first was ease of use. We think we had a pretty easy menu-driven system in our first release, but we've done some things that will make it even more easy for you to navigate the system and also to enhance it. So we talk about, we will show you that we provide 20 out-of-the-box metrics for you to use in our solution, but we also, with this new release, make it very easy for you to create new metrics on your own. So again, user-driven, not vendor-driven. And we also really wanted to increase the power by enhancing our machine learning and our AI platform so that you can build predictive models and really get the intelligence and insights out of the system that can help you better run your workforce and your business. So let's start and talk about that platform. So the TrenData platform is built really on three key technologies. The first is what we call intelligent data gathering, allowing the system to go out and grab whatever piece of data it needs in your ecosphere, whether it's your internal HR systems or external data benchmarking or emails or spreadsheets you might have lying around. The ability to go out and grab that from your system and bring it in and do the computation to answer the question that you're looking for is what intelligent data gathering is. A big key and a real centerpiece of this release was natural language processing. You don't have to be a computer programmer. You don't have to go through laborious menus. You don't have to have a certification to run TrenData. You can just ask it questions and it'll provide you with the answers that you need. And then finally, which is kind of the golden chalice in analytics, is the predictive component. Being able to harness all that data from your past, and I always like to describe HR as like pack rats. They have so much stuff in the basement that just doesn't get used. You probably have anywhere from 3 to 10 years worth of data that you could be using to build predictive models that can so much help you run your business better. We provide that capability in our system. So intelligent data gathering, natural language processing, and predictive modeling, all built on top of a high-powered artificial intelligence platform. And what that benefits you is that the more you use the system, the smarter it gets. We always used to talk, I used to be in the talent management industry at a company called HR Smart. A lot of our executives are. And we used to say that software was designed to automate a process. And the problem was, if the process you automate is a bad process, you're just making bad things happen faster. What an AI platform, AI capabilities add to software is it will correct those bad processes as you go on. So even though you might introduce a somewhat flawed process, as you continually use the system, it's going to course correct itself. So that's where you're going to really get the benefit out of AI. So let's talk about those individual components one at a time. Intelligent data gathering. So first, just the ability to aggregate and bring data together from all of your different systems is quite a endeavor to tackle on itself. Probably most of you have the majority of your data in your HRIS system, which would be SAP, Oracle, Ultimate, Lawson, namely. There's a bunch of them out there. HRIS has somewhat become data warehouses where companies just kind of store their HR system. But there are other systems prevalent out in your just internal ecosphere, talent management systems, the cornerstones, the talent guards, Taleo and SuccessFactors, who got bought by larger companies, HR Smart, who got bought by Deltek. There's plenty of those systems out there, which also you're going to be pulling data in from. Payroll, it seems like half the universe has ADP, but there's a lot of other ones out there. Being able to pull all of this data in and put it together, aggregate it onto a platform, and again, also with external data. You might want to bring in benchmark salary data or talent retention statistics to help you measure against the industry. Putting it all on one platform and then being able to predict the future. So it produces metrics, which are things we can talk about, but turnover, average salary, whatever, and then trending them into analytics with time shots that allow you to forecast into the future. So next after intelligent data gathering is the natural language processing. The web has really exploded, and basically, if you want to know a piece of information, you don't go to a newspaper or an encyclopedia or call information anymore. If you want to know something like, where is the nearest pizzeria, you go to Google or whatever your browser is, you type it in, and what Google does, again, behind the scenes, you don't have to see it, is it breaks that query down. It looks, what is the key tag word, that you're looking for? Here it's pizzeria, but the root word is pizza, and you'll see what I kind of. But this is what a natural language process does. It looks for tag words, root words, and then kind of tries to determine the entity and the sentiment of what you're looking for. So if you go to Google and you type in this phrase, where is the nearest pizzeria, and you live where I do in Plano, Texas, it'll bring you up a couple of options. You know, the first one it's going to bring up is an actual pizzeria that's in the name. But it looks through this search that that's the only place with that actual title located anywhere near where I live. So the second option is going to give you something that, figure if you're looking for a pizzeria, that you're looking for pizza. So it brings up something that has, you know, a pizza offering in it. And then I always like to joke, you know, like, so you've got a pizzeria, a place that serves pizza, and then a third option, a place that claims to serve pizza. But, you know, you can decide what you want. But that's really what natural language is. And it's amazing that it's been there so much far ahead on the consumer side than on the business side. But it's very easy to implement in the business side, because when you think of the questions you're going to be asking of a business system, the universe is much smaller. You don't have every word, every language, every nuance that you would have out in the, you know, the giant lexicon of the world. Business is pretty finite. For example, in human resources, the largest glossary of terms is really less than 1,000 words. So it's very easy, at least if you put your mind to it, to put together something that can navigate like that. So here's an example of what you might ask for in a business, an HR analytics system. You know, what's the average compensation by gender? And again, it's going to break things down and try and get you, okay, you're looking for an entity, an actual number or a value. You're looking for compensation, and you're looking for it by a particular filter. Now, what the AI system is going to do is, if that particular query has been made before, as you start typing, you're going to see, like similar to some browsers, it's going to start presenting you with options. So as you start typing, it's going to start filling out, making suggestions. Again, that's the artificial intelligence engine saying, you've asked these queries before. So that way, sometimes you don't have to just type out the whole sentence, what you're looking for. It's going to give you the suggestions. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to just drop down on the menu and pick the one that you want. And then once you make that selection, it's likely going to take you right to what what you want. But if there are multiple options, it'll also bring up a ranking like the Google did. But it could take you right to where you're going. Now, the real revolutionary, again, this is searching and navigating through the system. The real revolution, what TrenData is offering in this release, is twofold. So first of all, it does help you navigate the system. So similar to that query I typed in before, you know, I was looking for compensation filtered by gender. You know, so if you're looking for a metric filtered by something, and it's already in the system, like I said, we have 20 out of the box metrics, and we may have built, you know, 10 more for you if you're a client of ours. If it's already in there, the system's going to go boom, boom, boom right there and find it. The trick is, what if it's not in the system? Well, there's two options if that happens. First of all, if it's not in the system, but you have the data in there, or you have access to the data, and our intelligent, our IDG can go out and grab it for you, then it'll actually build that metric for you and present you with some options of how you want to represent it. If the data does not exist, the system is going to tell you that and invite you to, you know, put the data into the system, and we can help you with it. And you'll also see as I go through the system that what it'll do is I'll also ask you, is this what you wanted to be? You know, the English language and many languages are not always so specific that you get exactly what you want. But really, this is kind of the breakdown. You ask the question. If it's there, it'll take you to it. If it's not there, it will try to go out and build it for you. Now, the final part of that AI platform we talked about is the predictive modeling. This, as I say, this is what, you know, everybody you know, really loves about the TrenData solution, our ability to go out and actually build models that can help you construct the future based on being able to change certain things. So, you know, one that's often asked is regarding turnover. You might want to say, you know, how do I retain more high performers? You know, the ability to just type in that command and have it take you to the predictive model that'll let you build out the scenarios to see, well, how can I do, and give you the options. and we can show a little bit more of that, but this is something that we've been offering for some time, pretty much when we introduced the system. A couple of new tweaks on it, however, though, are, again, with that AI engine, the more you run that particular model, the smarter the system's going to be. So you run it enough, and what's going to happen is the system's not only going to present you with a model where you can play around with it, but it's going to go into what we call prescriptive analytics, where you're going to type in that question, and the system's going to present you with the answer. So we'll show in the demonstration of how we get to that professional development being, in this scenario, the answer. But as you run it and it keeps coming up with that answer, it's just going to tell you. You're not going to even have to run the model. And it also can provide the ability to do drill down. So for example, you might type it in and the system's run this model 100 times and gives you the answer, but you still might doubt it. So you might say, well, why professional development? Why can't I just give bigger raises? And the system, again, will jump to the supporting evidence and say, well, the reason for that is you pay everybody above industry average right now. So though you're welcome to give out bigger raises, your data tells you that that's not the best use of resources. So with that, I was going to jump into a demonstration of the system. So if you'll give me a few seconds here, I can jump over and move over to TrenData, and I'll make that bigger for everybody to see. So here's a typical dashboard for TrenData. And what you'll notice is there are a lot of fixed metrics on here. As I said, we have a number of out-of-the-box ones. They're contained in these 4 folders. The data can come from any number of sources. If I go over to here, this is in this particular universe where we're pulling data from. We have ADP for our payroll, either PeopleSoft or SAP, but all of these are ones that we could let go at any time and bring into the system. And we also have what's called our TUF file, which if you have legacy data, you can pipe that in as well. So being able to pull data in from multiple sources is again, kind of the crux of the system. And if you pretty much just run everything that we have in this particular field that we recommend you try to get, you'll get what are our 20 out-of-the-box metrics in recruiting, areas of finance, talent, and organization. Now, as I said, one of the goals of the system was to give you the ability to navigate quickly. So you can see we've always had this ability to drill down. So if I wanted to look at, a number of employees, I could always, drill down, look at it by department, and then do some various filters to get me to wherever I wanted. But, if you have 20 or even 50 metrics, you may not want to go through that. So suppose going back to the example of compensation, suppose I wanted to see, what is the average compensation, and you'll see that the system is then going to pipe up and give me some recommendations. Obviously, I've run this query before. So let's look at it, say, by job level. So if I click on that, the system is instantly going to drill down on the compensation metric that I have set up, and it's going to give me all of the average compensations by job level that I have in the system. And you can see down here, there's a listing of individuals, which I can change around if I want to put in different data. So if I wanted also cost center or maybe ethnicity, I can add those as well if I wanted to do some comparisons and such. But also what you'll find out, so you notice this just brought up the compensation data. Well, so what if I also wanted to take a look at maybe some industry data that I have in the system? So I would go to, what's the average compensation by job level, and you'll also see that there's a query in there to pull in industry data. And this is where the intelligent data gathering comes. Okay, there's industry data somewhere in my universe, whether it's a connection directly to salary.com or I uploaded a spreadsheet or something, but whatever, you'll see once I go on that query, it's going to bring up the same data, but it's also going to give me versus industry averages. And you'll see all of the various positions I have here versus industry averages. I can then, if I want to, change that query to say department or whatever, but it gives me all of the data that I'm looking for. And if I want to have that particular metric sitting on my dashboard, I can go and do that and just call it whatever I want. And what you'll see is now that natural language navigation has helped me move through the system and create a new main dashboard widget here, which I can then position and put wherever I want on the system. So that's an example of how the system can actually just guide you through, use the intelligent data gathering, and bring you to new sources of information. Now let's look at possibly how the system can help you build a different view. So right here, for example, I've got performance scores. And I'm seeing that the way the main dashboard widget is showing to me, it's showing me all of the percentages of people who've received various performance scores. When I go to the drill down on that, what the system does, because you might have points in your performance scores, so people might be 3.6, 3.7. So it gives an average by department. But that might not be the way I want to look at this. So if you were using a BI tool or something like that, you'd have to call the vendor or bring in your consultant to redo the X and Y axis. What TrenData allows you to do, again, using that natural language, you can actually go and build a different view and look at it in a different way. So if I wanted to show employees by performance score by department, what this is going to do is it's actually going to go out and show me something a little more similar to what I saw on the main page. So it's going to give me all the performance scores, but it's going to break it up and show how many people are in the various different areas. And I could do that by any other method as well. If I wanted to do that by job level, as I was showing before, I could do that as well. So what this does is it gives you the ability to look at your data in a different way than the metric that was created. And then again, I could add this to the main dashboard like I did the other metric. I also could, as you can see, since this is generated by natural language, it asks me, is this what you're looking for? I can click yes, and that goes into the system and keeps that as a good query. If it had shown something different, I would click the no button, and it would have said, and it would have left a comment, and I could have said I was looking for all the people in each category, and then the system would have adjusted for that. So this is a way to look at a different view. The last thing I wanted to show just on metrics is the ability to create an entirely new metric that you haven't created. So I showed that we had compensation, but we have no metric. If I go to the financial folder, I have no metric that tells me anything about salary increases last year or whatever. So what I can also do here is I can go to my natural language and say show employee salary increase. And what the system should do is give me just kind of a look. See, now here's a good example. Here's something that doesn't group anything. It just gives me every individual employee's group. Now this might be something where I don't necessarily want this view. I can say no and say I was looking for employees grouped by band or something. And then the system would know that this query didn't work for me. So I could go out. I could go. Now I could go look at it again, show by salary, average salary increase. And it's going to suggest a query that I didn't use. And when I do that one, it's going to do the same thing again. So, so this is an example of the system building a metric that you might want to particularly use or not use. So if I go back to my main dashboard, we've shown a little bit about building metrics, constructing new metrics. Let's talk a little bit about analytics. So for example, I can go to trending. So for example, I might want to look at turnover. So I've got a metric in here for turnover, which would show my analytics for turnover, which I can drill to and get right to it. And it will give me the turnover for the last 12 months. Again, I would have to look a little deeper to drill down on that. But suppose I wanted to look at just, do I have problem turnover? So I can go, do I have a turnover problem? And the system is going to bring up, again, turnover. But what it's going to bring it up is it's going to examine the sentiment. So it kind of shows that I wasn't just looking for raw turnover, I was looking for a drill down of turnover. What I can see from here is that somewhere along the line, voluntary turnover has picked up quite a bit. Not just regular turnover, but a voluntary turnover. So it's dissected and told me that I have a turnover problem. I can look at that another way and say, that's by separation type. What if I looked at it by performance? So I can go and click and see that voluntary turnover has been a lot of my high performers moving out the door. So I can see that has steadily increased over here. Has that been the result of anything that's happened recently? Well, we can go and look at our events overlay, and what that's going to do is show right back here in October, we had an acquisition. So the acquisition was announced, and suddenly my high performers started heading for the exits. That could be a number of different things. It could be, they're afraid of getting fired, or it might be that a new layer of management has come in, and a lot of these high performers who are expecting to be promoted to management are not going to be so. So let's do a little analysis on that and see, again, how do I retain more high performers, which is the query that I put in earlier. And what that's going to do is actually bring me to a very specific predictive model. So this model is showing me turnover going up for the next 6 months, but actually continuing to increase in the future 6 months. I can look at that by performance. And again, it bears out what I was showing earlier, the fact that it's really the high performers that have taken over the dominant strain in performance. So since I haven't run this very many times, I'll actually have to do the model this time. So I'll go to my summary view, which changes from the individuals and gives me a lot of overall data. And then I can actually start modeling. So for example, when I hit the modeling, you'll notice several of the fields have changed. It shows salary, employees, and high performers in professional development. The reason these fields are highlighted is the user knows that these are the fields that we can control. I might not be able to control how far from work somebody is or other things. But so let's take a look what happens if I play around with a few of these. So it looks like the company pays reasonably well. And if you remember seeing on that salary benchmark that we're pretty much above industry averages. What would happen if I gave, say, another $40,000, another $5,000 per employee out? What's that going to do to turnover? Right now, turnover is at 5. Overall turnover is at 5.6. High performers at 9.4. So I give everybody another $5,000 a year, and turnover went down 0.2 of 1%, and high performer barely moved at all. So this is a data set that has 1,000 employees. I just gave everybody a $5,000 raise. I spent $5 million and got very little for my money. So fortunately, it's a model. I don't have to do that. I can just reset that one and maybe experiment somewhere else. So over here, I've got about 34%, so about a third, a little more than a third of my employees are working from home. That looks like it's been pretty popular. It's forecasting to hold steady. What if I let another 10% work from home? I change that, and you see that does have a little bit of an effect on the overall turnover. It went down a full point. And the system says, yeah, that's having an effect, so it advises you to keep increasing it. But basically in your business, you might only have a maximum number of people that you can let work from home. It might be something where everybody has to be in the office. You might be a distribution company where people have to be in trucks, whatever. So there might be a limited amount of what you can do with that. But we'll put that in place for right now because it did look like it had an effect. And perhaps it has a limited effect, and we can let some people do it. And it did bring turnover down. But again, my concern was, what about high performers? And you could still see that's very high, whereas back in March of last year, it was down at 2%. Okay, well, we saw from the event tie-in that we did have an acquisition, maybe a new layer of management came in. Why would these high performers feel like they're threatened? Well, right now, only about 7% of them do I have in any type of professional development. So if I'm not putting money into my high performers and I just incorporated a new bunch of managers into the organization, they're going to think, well, I'm not investing in them. If they want to be managers and directors, they're going to have to go somewhere else. So let's see what happens if, say, I can somehow increase that number, maybe double it, get it up to about 15%. Aha. So that really has an effect, particularly on high performers. And you can see that will really do the trick. And again, the system, even more than the work from home, is saying you really need to jack that up, and it's going to drive high performer back even down below to where it was a year ago. So that's really where you need to spend the money, and that's where TrenData, being able to use all of those components of the AI platform, can deliver the insights and the data that you need to run your workforce and make your decisions. And again, as I pointed out in the presentation, you may run this model 90, 100 times, and you'll get to the point where the system will run the model for you and just, as I say, present that answer up there and say, what you really need to do is just increase professional services. You don't have to run the model. So that being the case, I am going to jump back to the presentation. Get to that. Okay, and just point out one more thing before I take any questions is I talked a little bit about being able to get the system up and going today. First of all, the system is totally device independent. You can have a big main master dashboard on your PC. You can run whatever portions of it you think are necessary on a tablet. And probably, you don't want to run the system off of your phone, but being able to just look at particular metrics, and the system, we're at the very beginning of voice applications, but if you're running our system on your mobile device, you can actually ask it questions like, what's turnover this month, and it'll actually bring up the particular view of the turnover you're looking for. So totally device independent. But I really wanted to point out this lower left, which what we can do is we can get you up and going on a basic implementation of the product in a day using that TUF file. We can import data in. You can be using it the first day as we build out your integrations. And what that does is help visualize your data, and then we can start building out the models as well. We do offer a couple of out-of-the-box models that we can discuss with anybody, which are pretty generic. They take into consideration salary versus industry, commute distance, time in same position, which can be relatively similar across organizations. But if you want a really complex model, usually it takes building it out. So we can get you going on a basic implementation in a day. You saw that natural language. You're never very far away from the information you're looking for, and particularly how powerfully it can tie into the modeling and bring in those data sources to get you what you're looking for. And then, you've got insights. You saw the system as I was viewing it. You don't need a consultant to run it. It's totally designed to be user-driven. I also say layman-driven. We test it on our salespeople, so that's how we know it's easy to use. So, 3 words: easy, robust. We can get you going today. Going to open it up for questions at this point. If you want to ask a question, I should have said this earlier. If you would just enter it in through the chat capability, I can just go and look at the various questions and answer forms. So we've got a couple that have come up. Here's one regarding benchmark data. Do we supply benchmark data? We do provide some, but I'd say in probably 90%. So we can go out and get a lot of free survey data off of the internet, which is not very hard. There's a lot of surveys and stuff that come out from Robert Half and places where they actually provide some cursory data free, but most likely what happens is people subscribe to salary.com or Mercer or somebody, and they bring in those particular data sources and don't necessarily ask those of us. Another one, how do we price the system? Well, I don't want to get into specifics. You can send, I'll give you a contact email at the end here if you want to reach out to us for any kind of pricing information. But essentially, we price it by user. So you can have, the 5 people in your HR department use it. We would charge you by user. Generally find once you get above 10 to 15 users, and particularly if an organization wants to roll it out to your line managers, which is the ultimate goal for people analytics, then we price you an unlimited license, doing it by employee count. So easy to do. Here's another question. After the system produces the bar chart, can the user obtain an Excel version of the source data? Yes. When I pointed out earlier where it had the drill down data at the bottom, or the individual data at the bottom, yeah, you can put all of the information, that source data that went into that chart, right there, and then export it to Excel and play around with it as you wish. Also, the individual charts you can send out to. You can just send that picture as well. So yeah, we can do both of those very, very easily. Okay. Got another question. Do you do recruiting data as well? We do recruiting data. I don't think I brought that into the demonstrator, but we do it largely from the standpoint of employees once they've become employees. So, for example, we don't put candidate data in the system, but we're actually looking at doing that as well. But right now, when we do recruiting data, it's employees who are on board, and we'll be able to analyze that and figure out, where did they come from, what skills did they possess, whatever, and then analyze, who became good employees, long tenured employees, who flunked out early, and we can tell you at least where your best candidates came from, what skills they had, and show their progression up through performance reviews and promotions to get you to the point where you're, knowing, this is the best place for me to get candidates. So I think that was all of the questions I saw. There was one about the slides after the presentation. Yes, we can send those out to you. That's not a problem. If you do have any questions that didn't answer during this session, feel free to just send me an email, Tom McEwen. I'm at tom@trendata.com. If you want general information from just a deeper drill down on anything, and you'd like to talk to one of our domain experts, our data sciences, or you'd like to contact somebody about implementing the system, or at least talking a little further about that, you can just send an email to marketing@trendata.com. But other than that, I think we're coming up on 40 minutes, which is usually the attention span of a webinar. So I will end it here. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time. I hope it was useful. I appreciate you spending some of your Thursday with us, and have a nice rest of the day.